And away we go. It is the Nightcap, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken, right here on BearcatJournal.com, www.galacticfriedchicken.com. Get the app, Android, iPhone, everything Galactic. They will deliver right to your front door, pretty much anywhere inside the 275 loop, or go down to Dayton, Kentucky. Tell them to pump it up. Save yourself 15% off of your order. Get yourself some delicious chicken tendies, some fries, some fried chicken, fried pickles. You know the deal. Make it happen. All right, Aaron. Interesting. A couple interesting things today. Fox is looking to start their own, basically their own version of the NIT. The Pac-12 is trying to stay alive. The Pac-2 is trying to stay alive. They went to court today. They got an injunction. So we got some fun college stuff to talk about. I'll put you in the driver's seat because I like when this happens. I like having you in the driver's seat. Let's go.
Well, this morning, Seth Davis broke news that Fox was in negotiations with the Big Ten, the Big 12, and the Big East, basically saying that they wanted to hold their own postseason basketball tournament in Las Vegas for teams that did not make the NCAA tournament. I believe it would end up being the top 16 teams from those three conferences that didn't make the
NCAA tournament.
Correct. And they would automatically opt out of the NIT, and they would have to play in this tournament as per the agreement of their conferences. I think that this is fascinating. I think it's hilarious. ESPN is like ignoring that this is even a story. That's just petty.
So here's the most interesting part of this. The Big 10 and the Big 12 are locked into long-term deals now. Well,
sure.
Basically long-term deals now with Fox. The Big East deal is essentially up. So they are not locked in yet, but this is an indication that the Big East is part of
trending that way, right?
Fox's long-term plans in terms of, a TV deal. But I don't mind it. Like, if you tell me you got to deal with the NIT, which is a lot of like, oh guess what? Your floor is being redone, then you got to go to Utah Valley and Bradley and
this is all in Vegas. It's all taken care of. I'm sure they pay for the transportation to come out to the tournament. It's probably all covered by this deal.
So here's the other thing is they talked about the setup is they would play it in those 5-6 days in between the Elite Eight and the Final Four.
Perfect.
So you go to Vegas. It's probably 2.5 weeks since your conference tournament ended, but you're going to get extra practice. Although here's the thing that's interesting. The NIT is owned by the NCAA.
Mm.
So if the NCAA really wanted to get frisky, they could say, you can't turn us down and go play in this tournament. If ESPN told them, like, there's potentially a battle here.
That would set a whole precedent, though, for the NIT that has never been set before, because you had plenty of teams opting out of the NIT, and not to mention the fact that with the NIT, as we found out last year, you have to host a game, or you have to pay for your own travel as the team in the NIT, whereas this would all be paid for. And if they wanted to do that, then I think that some of the rules for the NIT would have to change. Some of the money for the NIT would have to change, where the NIT is also paying for travel and paying to host a tournament somewhere, as opposed to going to maybe.
I guess here's the question on like precedent, although I don't know how it works. But there have been other tournaments, the CBI, the CIT, the whatever, that have operated outside of the NIT that essentially have been for teams that didn't make the NIT.
Sure.
could this new tournament use that precedent that, teams have been able to play outside of the NIT so that, like, you could monopolize the Big Ten, the Big East, the Big 12. This is, again, here's the bigger story for me. This is another thing that is coming down to ESPN and Fox battling. So where it's important for me is, remember, everybody keeps talking about a super league or, the version of college sports where the Big Ten and the SEC basically combine and monopolize everything between the two of them. These two entities hate each other, first. And second, it's really the TV partners that are creating the wedge.
Well, then that's not really been a secret. If you're paying attention, yeah.
It's the thing that they're not saying out loud, but really is what's really happening here is Fox and ESPN continue to draw a line in the sand. Who's probably behind this, Aaron? Brett Yormark.
Oh, he's been trying to set the basketball portion of this up as a powerhouse and a thing that he thinks that the basketball should have its own contract outside of football as far as TV goes.
What is the idea now that he's floating to Fox and the TV partner? Okay, let's do our own thing where us, the Big Ten and the Big East, play our own tournament for these teams that got left out of the NCAA tournament. And it will be compelling television for, 16, 8, 4, 2 for 4 days, probably a day off in the middle. So 5 days, we're going to run this tournament on Fox. It's going to be interesting because these are teams from 3 power conferences that are going to play in this event. And guess what? That means that there's 16 teams that would have been at the top of the NIT field, that are no longer going to be an option to them.
Sorry about you.
So now what does the NIT field become? The bottom teams in the SEC, the bottom teams in the ACC, and all of the mid-majors.
And
that's not a tournament I give a shit about.
And especially because we have allegiances, obviously, to the Big 12.
Well, no, but think about when...
But the Big East and the Big Ten being involved also is good basketball.
Yeah, it's going to be better basketball, for one. And for two, the way that the NIT has generally worked is there's a bunch of those games that are played during NCAA tournament games. Like, there's NIT games on the Saturday and Sunday of the first weekend of the tournament that are on ESPN, like running kind of in those opposite time slots.
Different windows, yeah.
That nobody cares about. So now you're taking this tournament with 3 power conferences, the number 1 conference.
At this point in time, yeah.
Yeah. The number 2 or 3 conference, and then right there, another number 3 or 4 conference. We're going to take those teams out of your inventory, and the NIT is going to become irrelevant. Nobody's going to care.
Not when you're put up against a tournament that's hosting 3 of the top 5 conferences of the leftovers that didn't make the NCAA. Sure.
And you know what we all want, Aaron, in that week between the Elite 8 and the Final 4?
More basketball.
We know, like, it's going away, right? Like,
more good basketball. Like, especially in Vegas. You think that they know that money's already flying around on college basketball, and you get one last shot at watching your team.
So essentially, what does this mean? This means the Monday after the Elite 8, so the Elite 8 is Sunday night. The Monday after the Elite 8, there's going to be 8 games.
There you go.
Or Monday, Tuesday, 4 games on Monday, 4 games on Tuesday, day off on Wednesday, 4 games on Thursday, 2 games on Friday, a game on Sunday for the championship in between Saturday, Monday. Like, it's brilliant in terms of taking advantage of like what basketball fans want. It's why I've said the entire time people are angrily opposed to the expansion of the NCAA tournament. Angrily opposed. Does it really fucking matter that we get an extra day or two of more tournament basketball? Is that really a terrible thing?
I don't want to water down that field. I don't mind having a separate tournament to watch actual more basketball, but I don't want to end up in a situation where we're giving all of the Big Ten, all of the SEC, all of the Big 12,
I just don't care.
all of the Big East, and then a handful of mid majors as opposed to.
I guess I'm in a position where, like, okay, it's Selection Sunday, and then we start the tournament on Tuesday. And Tuesday and Wednesday, there are 8 games each day. And then we get into, like, on Thursday, we still have the field of 64 on Thursday. We just had a bunch of games on Tuesday and Wednesday to set that up. I'm in. I love it. More basketball.
We'll see what happens with any and all of that. Another big story is the mess that is the Pac-2.
I love it, bro. I love that everybody tried to bastardize Oregon State and Washington State, and they're double birds.
The fun thing about it, I guess the fun thing about it right now is Washington State ranked, Oregon State ranked. They're both making as big a just mess of all of this as they can right now. Good on them. Good on them for it. But they have since this weekend, I guess, they placed a restraining order on George Kliavkoff, which, I mean, I know we've not been shy about just
nobody in sports has ever been worse at their job than George Kliavkoff.
No, and we've not been shy about shitting on him for the job that he did in handling literally everything that has been put in front of him. And to follow that up, at this point, he's now been served with a restraining order from his own conference. So
they did this thing today. The whole point of the thing today was like, well, the 8 schools that they are in control and they should be able to meet and control the future of the conference. And Oregon State and Washington State were like, no, we control the future of the conference, and we're going to a judge. And the judge was like, yeah, you guys like that, yeah. Based on the precedent, when UCLA and USC left the Pac-12, the conference was like, you're out. You don't get to vote anymore. You don't have any say in this conference's legal dealings. And then Colorado left to go to the Big 12, and they did the same thing. You know what these schools that are leaving now want to do? They want to dissolve the conference and take the money that is left to pay for their entrance into the other conferences.
And oddly, we talked about this a couple weeks ago now. Oddly, Oregon State and Washington State don't want that to happen. We still believe, between the two of us, I think we both are firmly entrenched in the fact that they want to keep the name so that if they go to the Mountain West, they can take the name with them, and all of a sudden the Mountain West is not a thing anymore, and the Pac-12 now becomes your new Mountain West.
Right.
And with that name comes money, with that name comes prestige, with that name comes things that people know. It's a familiar name. It's a good brand. Why wouldn't you want to take that? You take that name and you potentially run a situation where Oregon State and Washington State could be setting themselves up to make more money than everybody else in the conference.
And to run the Pac-12, to be the governing body of the Pac-12, essentially.
And run George Kliavkoff right out of there. Get out.
I saw a tweet today that kind of summed it up, and I'm paraphrasing. but like the judge was like, so you guys want to have meetings? And the teams that are leaving are like, yeah, we'd like to talk about internal business, about who stays behind in the conference office and whatever. And the judge was like, can you do that, like, without having like, you can just do that? And they're like, yeah, I guess we can do that. And then he was like, well, where's George Flacco? He's in Wyoming. Well, then you're not conducting official business if the guy that's supposed to be in charge
isn't there.
Like, that's not how you conduct official business. You guys had no intention of conducting official business. You just wanted to meet, dissolve the conference, screw Oregon State and Washington State, and then walk out the door with all the money.
Robbery.
Essentially, it is robbery. They're trying to rob Oregon State and Washington State.
After they've taken everything from Oregon State and Washington State, and they essentially wanted to piss on the grave. That is the Pac-12.
The only reason I don't like it is because the people at Oregon State and Washington State were the people feeding Canzano and Wilner all of their terrible information, because they were doing everything they could to, like,
they were the only ones that were doing everything they could.
Right. Everybody else is like, we're fucking out of here, man.
You feel bad for them to an extent.
So, in some ways I do, in some ways I don't, but
wherever they land, it's not going to be a better situation.
No.
But this puts them in the best position if they're able to hold on to the name, the brand, the money, and
a lot less of the money, but the money.
Well, the money that's currently in the coffers that everyone's trying to walk out with.
Yeah. No, that's our money. It's my money, punk.
Man, trying to leave them with nothing. They're already in debt up to their eyeballs because they followed the plan. They're the only ones who followed the plan.
College sports is so fucked, man. It's so wild. Bearcats beat Pitt. I don't care. We'll see you next time. That's the Nightcap, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken, right here on BearcatJournal.com.
See ya!